Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Coffee Review. It is a beautifully sunny March 11th, and we've got some fun stuff to talk about. We've got some updates to talk about. We've got some consternation, maybe, over how to adjust to daylight saving time, and welcoming Michael to the earlier alarm clock. But how you coping over there, bud?
Good. Not too rough today. I went to bed early, knowing I'd have to be up for the first time in a couple of months, super early. So I was excited to be back and start a new early time, I guess. I mean, for you all, it's different, right? Because you're just mentally waking up an hour early, right? Is that like the whole thing? In comparison to me, I'm just getting up earlier to meet this time.
Right, right. Our calendars don't move, just our clocks move. Where
Yeah.
you've got different alarms and stuff, and thanks for getting up early to keep the streak going. But today we're going to be talking about project coordination with Bluebeam. So last week we talked about model coordination with Autodesk Construction Cloud and ACC, but today we're going to I'm going to say try, put a big fat disclaimer out there. We're going to get pretty as close as we can get with Bluebeam and talk about some different things that we've seen. But first, we wanted to mention there's been some updates. So one of them is that if you opened up review recently, there is a 21.5 release that came out last Tuesday, which has bug fixes. Page labels were not maintained, not fixed. Files with corrupt bookmarks could cause review to freeze. Some users couldn't double click to edit the text of certain grouped markups. AutoCAD plugin save as window was always opening to last saved folder. Form field names printing to review. So there's been a couple bug fixes there. Special characters in file paths would break links to files when converted from Excel. So nothing new functionality wise, but some bug fixes that may or may not apply to you. So that's certainly worth installing. But what we were talking about before we got started this morning is that there was also some updates for Bluebeam Cloud, especially the iOS app, including the big giant one that we were hoping was coming, but we didn't really think it was coming. And here it is. You can now access your sessions offline. So navigate to previously opened sessions and access to synced documents. Say that 5 times fast. Even without an internet connection. Sessions or files that you haven't opened on your device will appear disabled, so you make sure you open your files before needing to go offline. So very similar workflow to what we've talked about over the years with the Bluebeam for iPad app. If you know you're going out in the field and you might lose internet, open that up first and then go out and do your stuff. When you regain internet connection, it will sync back up. So it will allow you to work with documents offline or in unstable connections, view and add markups to session documents even when offline or in areas with poor connectivity. Any changes will sync automatically. And then track pending updates. So stay informed with the new pending updates panel, which shows markups that you haven't synced yet, keeping your collaboration on track. That's kind of cool. So maybe it doesn't show the little red dot that we see in review when you're working offline. So Michael was trying to get the app to update and
Now
having
I'm going to
some.
go back to it one last time.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. I'll check mine too. And try not to have both of us just staring at our phones all episode. But
Yeah, for some reason it was making me I
yeah.
could log in, but then it was saying system error.
Yeah, I just got the same thing. So
Yep, delete the app, reinstall it. All is fine in the world.
mm,
So
so there's been a little bit of a history with Bluebeam apps and reviews, right? The iPad app has like a 1.7 star review. And I think part of that is because two things. One, people are expecting $400 a year performance out of a $10 app, and it doesn't work that well. Two, it looks different than the desktop app. And three, it doesn't do all the same things that the $400 version can do. Oh, darn. 1 star, right? There is some of that with expectations, but there also is functionality, right? I'm trying to go to Bluebeam Cloud. It's not working for me. I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming me because I don't use it that often. And I'll download it and reinstall it later and see if that fixes it. But Once it is up and running, it's pretty slick.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's back to normal for me makes me excited. And all it was a quick delete, reinstall, which is fast in your iOS systems. But the exciting part for me is the ability to work offline. That was a huge limitation for a lot of folks with going out into the field and having connectivity issues. So I'll be testing that out here at some point. I don't want to be staring at my phone the whole time because then I'll get yelled at by Jason. By being on like airplane mode, that's how you could test it on your phone, right? If you're even going to the airplane, like the airport, and you're going to fly somewhere, you could do the same thing. But typically there's Wi-Fi on a plane now. But if you're going to a dark site, right, or somewhere that doesn't have internet connection, this really now extends the reach to the mobile devices. I find it kind of funny that Android came out with it first when they're predominantly built around iOS development. But either way, it's exciting because now that really does extend the features. The next thing up, I think, for it to be almost not equal, but kind of the next step because you still can't use your custom tool sets. That would be one where they are fully linked. After that, pretty much they have almost everything you need from the desktop application in the phone application, right? So the mobile app. From that point, you're pretty much streamlined. I mean, there's the markups list still, which they kind of have like a hybrid environment. But that really extends the reach to markup anywhere or everywhere. It's one of those two that they always were saying.
And maybe getting closer to that unbound conspiracy theory out there, you know. So we'll see
Oh
what
yeah.
happens, right? We'll see what happens. But it's getting better. It's pretty slick when it's working right. One of these days we'll figure out how to get that screen share going on. But today we'll probably spend more time in the desktop product. Of course, as always, if you've got any questions around anything else, fire away. We'll answer those as we go. But today we're going to hop into Bluebeam review and see what coordination looks like in there. Now, obviously, we're not doing clash detection. We're not going to be doing RFIs entirely. We're not doing some of those things, but we're going to do what we can, right?
We could do like an RFI workflow. I remember doing one for one workflow at a company where it was pointing to an RFI. We could do like a hyperlink to a different file. I know some people are looking for those typical type of workflows where we'll reference to a file. It would have to be part of a document if you want it to be dynamic wherever it goes. Let's do that as well. I can show a workflow for that too.
Yeah,
And then
that'd be good. Because once upon a time, there were RFIs in Bluebeam Cloud, right? Or did I
correct.
sleep through that?
No, you didn't sleep through it. There were submittals, there was RFIs, and there was punch lists in the old Project Rover era Bluebeam Cloud segment, which gave you a tab for RFIs, and that's where your RFIs were hosted. But it was the same thought process where you made a markup that was tied to an RFI. But you can still do
Mm.
that same thing in Bluebeam Cloud. I mean, in the desktop application. The most important factor there is where is that RFI document hosted?
Hmm. Maybe that's something that we would want to collaborate and coordinate on as per today's theme, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
And that can be in studio projects, right? So if you truly
Yep.
want to have one centralized area for those RFIs, like a great example would be docs. I'm always going to make this comparison because it's always frustrating to me. Within docs, right, you have the design team that works and uses RFIs, right? Because the construction team is submitting some RFIs when they're out in the field, and then it goes to the design team. If you all didn't know this, Autodesk paywalled, and it's a true word. I was going to think of something different, but it's truly a paywall. RFIs.
What?
They're part of build.
That's right.
You have to pay to address any RFIs. You have to have access to build. There's a paywall. How funny is that? So if you're the design team, you're already paying for BIM Collaborate Pro to work collaboratively. And then now, if I need to address some of these RFIs, either the contractor needs to give me a license of build, which sometimes they do because, there's the unlimited package. So you're fine there. But if you don't, and that's not a possibility, in order for you to work in docs, I mean in the RFI thought process, you have to pay for build. It's a paywall just for RFIs and submittals.
But on the business case, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you're working on
Oh,
$1 million
it's a
projects, and you're
paywall.
like, oh, what's another $200 or whatever it is, right?
Don't get me
Or
wrong. I get it, but for some of these smaller firms that are not there's not a huge budget around that project and it's rolled in the build, like there's no way you would have to find a different way to address RFIs.
mm-hmm.
I'm just telling
or
you what's out there.
be like Matt and just, hey, there's no RFIs. Cool.
Hmm.
I don't have access to them. They must not be that big of a deal. So we're good to go. Just keep building. I like it. But interesting stuff, right? So there's been a couple questions. I suppose we'll handle those first. A question: does Bluebeam Cloud iOS allow scaled measurements? And I think that's where if your scale is already pre-configured prior to uploading it,
Yep. It
it
shows
should
up.
work. Yep. And then there was another question: automatically set the scales for a PDF in Bluebeam or a third party. This is one where I'm going to bust and dust off the old tinfoil hat. And I would say this is one where AI could come into play, where AI would read a scale bar or scale equals or find that OCR text and automatically set it. But there is no way to do it now. You have to manually go verify, trust but verify, right? Even though you set it, go take a
Hmm.
measurement, make sure it's good, then save it. Um, that's what we've been doing.
Well, the same thing comes down to printing out of Revit. You all saw me last week doing that, or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't know. It was recently, where I plotted and printed out of Revit using the add-in, and it automatically applied a scale to the page. So I think it just comes down to your workflow from the
Mm-hmm.
design team itself. But if you do need to apply one, there is no automatic apply. You can apply it to multiple sheets, but yeah, AI definitely would come into a good efficiency workflow there. Same with hyperlinks, right? You can batch do hyperlinks, but it's manual selection of the data. It's not automatically apply links to sections or something like that. I think AI could definitely help out with that as well.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what AI is going to do for us. But yeah, there was another comment that contractors are using Procore more than Build, and that battle, that competition is still out there, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still pros and cons to both, right?
Oh, 100%.
There's a big pushback with, I think, users as a whole against certain software companies for doing things that they maybe disagree with. So Bentley comes to mind. Obviously, we're an Autodesk Platinum partner. We're always going to speak positively about Autodesk and Bluebeam. Um, but Bentley is Autodesk's one of their bigger competitors, right? And they changed their licensing model to more of a usage-based one. It's causing all sorts of issues with billing and why does this cost more? These changes, that affect people's opinion of the software, and Procore's in that bucket, right? It used to be a more reasonable fee. They get you all hooked, and then full
Well, of
switcheroo,
course.
right?
What a good business model. They wrote in the contracts that they could change it, and they started doing like 6 months into some of these projects. People are understanding that they can bill you more for the overall project cost. So people are making a strategic switch. Now, build isn't that expensive of a license, and yes, that's why I said earlier. Some people from the GC world get unlimited licenses, and they just gift it out to people, which is great, right? But there may be a circumstance where that isn't the case. So just
Mm-hmm.
that's why my consternation of why isn't RFIs part of docs, which is part of the design process as well, um, is my 2 cents, right? We're transparent here. I have opinions, and that's one of them.
But it's also one of those things where build, if you don't have access and you need access, time is money,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So either you're just going to get it and expense it or whatever and cause a nightmare for your software license team to go through and figure that out, or If you've got unlimited, go ahead and give me that. But still, that time, that coordination, especially
Yeah.
if you're on a job site trying to get stuff done, not cool. But I get it. I get it. Um, but it's something to be careful of. Same thing if you're already involved with Procore and you're not on the um, billing side of things, that's probably the good thing. But those who are on the billing side, they're not always happy about some moves that our software SaaS world is doing. But it is what it is. You can't live without it, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, just the other day, like I was, yeah, that's what it was. I was like emailing my not emailing, I called my internet company because my deals went away. It's $30 more a month. It's
mhm.
that type of stuff, right? Where you're just like it's a service, you're paying for it. Um, and things get increased, obviously.
Yeah, I probably need to do the same thing too. I remember, I mean, yeah, internet service providers are the worst at that, absolutely. Because, oh, yeah, you sign up for $69 a year. Cool. And then it's $89. Like, well, what happened? Well, you didn't read the fine print. The deal was
Yeah,
only
the
for 6 months. Like,
2 year.
well,
Yeah.
and it's not like stuff got faster or better.
I did the chat thing with them with Cox, and they were like, when I was first started, I was telling them, I was like, yeah, my bill did increase. They're like, well, boy, do I got a deal for you. They're like, do you want to hear it? I'm like, totally. They're like, well, if you upgrade to 200 megabytes, I mean 2,000 megabytes speed, you're only paying $60 more. And I'm like, I just messaged you that I don't want to be paying an additional $30 more a month, and you're trying to get me to pay $60 more for more speed. It's wild. That was a good sales tactic.
Yeah. But
Not
those chat
really,
things,
but you know what I mean.
supposedly, that's the trick, because those people don't really care. Like, oh, yeah, I'll give you a deal or whatever. Or they're have no problem
It
telling you to your face it's going to cost you more money. But um,
yeah,
yeah,
it wasn't a deal. Like I don't need another 1,000 gigabytes of speed when they don't even maintain my 1 gig blast speed. It's ridiculous. But anyways, let's get into it. Um, collaboration is what we're talking about, right?
hmm model coordination, project coordination. Like I know we've talked about sessions, we've talked about projects, but we've never really talked about them together. And if we're going to work on a project, I'm in Minnesota, you're in Arizona, we've got a project going on in, let's say, Utah. How do we make sure that we're all on the same page, especially as we're working across different time zones, from different offices? How do I make sure that you've got the most up to date stuff and I've got the most up to date stuff? That way we're working on the same project.
Yeah, it's going to come down to a workflow of data transfer. So we'll remove Autodesk ecosystem out of this bucket. And let's just say you're using Bluebeam to use markups, coordination from like a submittal perspective, or even RFIs for that matter of fact. Now you can do this in one of two ways. Or if you're looking for more of a collaboration on a specific PDF set, you would initiate what's called studio sessions. If you are looking to host data, that would be a studio project, and it would probably be, in my opinion, a dashboard. It doesn't have to be, but you can create what's called project dashboards, and that allows you to store data for projects in one area. So you can organize it in a dashboard. That way, everyone has access to the similar set of documents, right? So if I go home here, this is not the flattened one. I think this is the one that I created. But anyways, if you go through and look, you have these will not be here, these Thunderbolts, because you flatten the PDF typically. That way it's clickable. But this gives you one local area to store PDF sets. So essentially what I could have done on a PDF is store RFIs that link to a location. And I'll show this kind of process, but it's not going to be linked to a specific location in projects because I don't want to go through that whole. Maybe we can go through that workflow, but basically you could store items here that are referenced to something on the PDF requesting for information, and then have that documented in your project for information of where those RFIs are, and send like an email. Hey, reference this RFI. People can go and look. It's in projects, right? So That would be one thing where it's not like alerting somebody. You'd have to email, but that would be the process, right? So if I were to go through and create a new project, we'll upload just a PDF set here. New project, MCR 2025. I'm not going to create a dashboard. So if that's what you're hoping, we could do dashboards a different day, but we'll just do CDs. And then we'll do another folder called RFIs. You could do it where it's attached to the set. That also works, but it's up to you on how you kind of want to run this. So basically, you have your CDs, RFIs. I'll just grab a PDF here, and we'll just reference request for information through like a spec doc, but either way works. So hold on one second. I'm assuming you're monitoring the chat, Jason.
Yep.
Okay. I saw somebody raise their hand, so that's why I was like. I'm just going to drop our typical data. Oh, no, not there. Right here. You can always drop more. It's not hard. Like, boom.
Yeah, you can always drag and drop, or you can upload manually.
Yeah. I'm a drag and drop person, so. And then I'm going to put a spec doc in here to reference as a request for information, just some literature, right? You would probably have an actual R5 form that's filled out with an image of an area. But for this sake of time and document, I'm just going to say reference to the spec doc. Okay. Cool.
And there is still a RFI template in review. If you go to new from template, there are some ones in there that are for RFI. So if you're looking to get away from the paywall, you can put some fine tuning on this company logo, fields you might want, and then use that too.
All right, I'll do this workflow, Jason.
I wasn't trying to pressure you into that, but I'm just saying it could be done.
All right, there it is, saved. Save as. I don't think I have my
Yep. Have your what?
I
Train
don't.
of thought?
That's no, okay. I don't have my studio thing set up.
This came up the other day too, and I forgot about it.
Yeah, I think it's this one. Nope.
Search for it.
I just forget what it's even called. So let me close out.
I know what you're trying to get to, and I can't think of what it's called either. The dialog box, your open save.
Yeah. It's my file path. 1 second, I'll remember. I'm just going to drag it because I already know that I can do this manually. Okay. So if I go through and look at my PDF sets, we'll just use this one as my example here. So I can click into here. I can open this up. Now, how Bluebeam Studio Projects works is a check-in, check-out basis. So you check it out or check it in to make revisions. Now, if I needed a request for information for a specific area, I can easily go through and use a markup and tag it as RFI something, RFI 1, right? That's great and all, but it doesn't tell me like, well, what is the RFI 1 PDF? Because if I send it to somebody, they're going to have to go and look specifically for the RFI. That's going to take time. I want them to be able to action hop to something. So what I can do is I can come into here and do an action. So I can edit by an action and go to a hyperlink. Nope. We're going to open to a file location and it's still not working. Okay. So this is where we're.
Alex put it in the chat. So go to preferences and then interface.
So it's not this one. It's not this one. So I'll uncheck those.
Interface and then always show selection dialog.
There you go.
We're testing Alex's theory here.
make sure that's always checked. It's one of these, and I used to have it, and then I deselect it because everyone's like, why do you have to open up two different windows to go to a specific location? Nope, that's not it either. Hold on. Maybe let me. Do I need to hit save? Yeah.
It shouldn't be that.
Maybe you have to open it and reclose it. Hold on.
Dum, 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 dum.
Nope. Still not working. Okay, 1 second. It's this one.
Open and save files
Yep.
from Studio from toolbar only.
Yep, that's what it is. Okay.
Mm.
So it's this setting right here. I just need to. So I was like, let me read this setting right here. This allows you to open from a location that's not just your local desktop. So going back, there's a lot of MCRs here. Close that. Okay. So going back to my CD sets, going back to this one.
I think that was the one.
Yep. Open. Check out. Now I'm going to make this as a link. So edit action. It's going to open that RFI from my projects. So it defaults automatically to the project that you're in, which is great when you're doing this workflow. But if you need to go to your other projects, you can just click this button and then you can scroll through and look at your other projects. Now, the reason why this is working is because you need to, let me restate that. The reason why you would want to do it this way as a workflow is because how are other people going to consume my collaboration of files, right? So projects, you can be in, no, you still need a license.
Oh, where are you going with this train of thought?
Well, because you can't have a free license and get access to projects, but can you with a free license of cloud? So that would be my question. Because what if you invite somebody that doesn't have a license of Bluebeam Review? Can they still go into projects? I know they can go into sessions, but they can't typically go into projects, right? Because they have to have a license. So that was me testing a theory. Someone would have to have a license for you to be working in this collaborative method, but maybe it's cheaper than other alternatives. I don't know. We'll have to go back and visit that from a free license perspective. I'd have to sign in and see. But anyways, going back full circle, so you can come in here and reference that RFI. We'll do MCR RFI. Now, I do not want to check out on open. I'm just going to hit OK because it's referencing that file. Now, all I need to do to make it clickable is right click and flatten markup. Okay. So now when I click this RFI here, it's going to actually open up in a side-by-side view this RFI. So
Makes
an
it
end
easy to
user,
access.
yeah. You could do it the same way where you're not using and leveraging projects. That's fine. However, I know how large CD sets are. If you attach to the back, you're just extending the file size of that PDF set. But this way, you're maintaining a link. It's referenced to a location. And now people can just open it because they're already in the project and the files are all stored local to that specific project.
You know what would be cool, which I don't think happens, if you could set a view log. Say, for anybody that clicks on this link, give me their Bluebeam ID. So I know that Michael clicked on and viewed the RFI.
Yeah, you probably
it
do that.
knows that somewhere in the background, right? But that would be a handy log, especially if you're worried about coordination or whatever, similar to that Studio Prime thing. Who has access to my studio entirely, but you can see who's opening files.
Yeah, there's probably some type of log that happens that you could dive into with the API. Yeah.
Interesting.
But this would be a workflow. So the other way would be, if you're probably wondering, let me um just do this natively. So if I open up a PDF set, what you would need to do to have this on your actual set. mm,
You could do a file attach and have the icon there to click on it, but that wouldn't be a live link.
yeah. I don't want to mess up my data sets. So I'm saving over, and this is now local on my desktop. Okay. So what you would want to do is you would want to grab that PDF. You could open it, or you can go this thumbnail, right click, insert pages from my desktop. We'll go to my desktop here, RFI, boom, whatever, because you can always drag it around. So now it's part of the PDF, right? So you could do this process if you don't want to use projects. So now we're coming over here, RFI 1, same thing. Alt Z for the hotkey for auto sizing text box. Move it wherever you need to. Maybe it's here now.
Thank you.
We can go and right click and edit action, and then it can go to a place or a page. So it can go to page number 2. And now you can flatten this and now click in. It brings you to the page, right? So
different ways to do the same thing.
Yeah. And this you could then send to somebody, all the RFIs of this specific file, but it's one file, and my worry would be about most, latest, and greatest, right? Because collaboration means single source of truth, in my opinion. So studio projects would be a source of truth. This would be a data transfer and not live in one place source of truth. So fragmented data, which is not what you want.
No.
What else?
Okay. So there's a question about, maybe missed the discussion, but does Bluebeam Cloud not natively support RFIs anymore? And back in the Project Rover days, back in the early time, there was specifically an RFI button that I seem to remember, right? We'd have to go in the archives.
No, there was. I trained on
closet, but
yeah.
Now we don't have that anymore. And why, we don't really know. Obviously, there's some thought that maybe it had to do with Blue Nemechek's, not Bluebeam's, Nemechek's agreement with Autodesk to maybe work together, and maybe they would just push to ACC for the RFI workflow, or maybe that's not what they were after. It's weird that you're getting banners for trial when you're logged in.
No, this is my Joe demo account, so it works.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see. Hold on.
It might have been there at the beginning of Cloud, before, like after Project Rover, but when Cloud first came out, I seem to remember. We'd have to go check out some of those old episodes to have access to it. But
for what?
RFIs being inside of
it was
Cloud.
It was part of Project Rover, and then it was rolled into Cloud, and then it was part of Cloud. So was submittals. But when they moved over to it being access anywhere, they basically no one was using. Okay, let me take that back. A small percentage of the users were actually using Cloud for what it was meant to be for on the construction side. So they rewrote it and went more towards extending the reach of their bread and butter product, right? Because they have user data on a cloud sourced solution, right? Let me see. So if I just added myself to here, do I just hit refresh and it will show up? don't think I need to hit accept. Yep, there it is. Okay. So this would be the workflow. I'm a free user in the cloud, right? So if I were doing this RFI process and I wanted to give people access, you can. So if I'm back here, all you need to do is hit share for projects and you can copy a link and say, hey, your RFIs are here. So this would be able to extend that reach if people don't have access because they can just come into here. Let's see if it works. So if we go into here, what is this? Oh, that's a set. Sets don't work in here. Okay, so boom. This is testing if hyperlinks worked in here. It wants you to click it. You see that?
Yeah, it wants to. It's not working.
It doesn't
Markup is
click.
locked. Okay.
Yeah, it won't click to it.
Actions don't work?
So you would have to go to RFIs because I flattened it, right? Let's check.
Yeah, you did. Sets don't work, but individual pages are the way to go when you're in the cloud. Yes.
So
but
I didn't flatten it. I hit escape. Hold on. What? Of course I hit escape.
You checked in without leaving a comment. Ooh.
Well, earlier I checked it and didn't even save it. I just hit cancel. Because I didn't think we were going to do this workflow, but let's see.
We're testing it. How do we get around having your RFIs be accessible without a license, right? Survey says, oh, we got a hand now. But nothing's happening. Wah, 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 wah. So I bet you'd have to. Will it give you like a pop-up? No. I wonder if you would have to put the app.bluebeam link in there and not the other link. Right? Because you have that app, you have the link at the top. Is right.
Oh, it's loading. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. Would it work?
That
if
is
it was
a
the second
bummer.
Sheet? Yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. Because I know we had talked about like linking details and doing those hyperlinks. Do none of the links work? Or is it just this one that's trying to go to a studio project?
I don't know. I know I have one of these. It's kind of the same. These go to, yeah, so going to other pages work, yes. So this is another page, right?
So old logo days.
Old logo days, old tech bios. I bet you Matt's is in here. Training outlines, data sets. But yeah, that works. So this works to itself, but they'll need to fix that and how it opens up because this would be the workflow for mobile device, right? So that's a bummer.
Yep.
Okay. Anyways, but yeah, so for a free user, you can get access to sessions, and in sessions, you can still come in and mark up. That is true. So we talk. Oh, this is what the thing I was getting warnings from. Did they truly limit it? I wonder if that one has a set scale. Maybe. Anyways, but yeah, you can come in here and mark up if you need to as a free user so that you can collaborate. Your markups are just limited. Like you can't add a vector pen. Call out. Can you use Cloud Plus? Look at that. You can. Um, maybe you can't. It won't let me type. Oh, there we go. So
Free.
there is the ability to have collaboration for folks that are maybe looking at the free application itself, right? You're worried about your team members that may not have a paid for application that need to revise stuff and work offline. I'm not going to disconnect from the internet on my computer because I would lose all of you right now in this session. But basically, now again, you have access to markups via, well, PDFs via no internet connection, which was a huge downside, in my opinion. We won't talk about the tool sets yet, but right now, I think that was top of my mind talking with clients because they're like, well, what if we go out to the field and there's no internet connection? Because that
Mhm.
happens more frequently than you think,
Absolutely.
than I thought.
I mean,
Right.
heck, there's
So,
rooms in certain offices that don't have good Wi-Fi signal. So
yeah.
that is a real thing, especially if we are talking about construction coordination. Um, but yeah, it's hard to test while we're connected to the internet. But supposedly that functionality is there, and that functionality came out last Tuesday, so March 4th. So if you haven't played with that yet, it's available now, apparently. And there should be a new pane or window or taskbar or something that shows you what hasn't been uploaded yet.
Yeah. And I'll test that. But man, you can even have your own documents. Oh, you have to add
Hmm.
accounts.
Yeah.
Buy now.
Buy. Try it now.
Buy
Buy
now.
now. Yeah.
As this thing just never goes away. Um,
Well, I mean, it's not the most annoying pop-up in the world compared to like, you know,
Other
something
solutions. Yeah.
like a news website for crying out loud. You get two sentences in, like, oh, by the way, do you want to know what's happening? That'd be $12. Paywalls.
Paywalls. But yeah, basically this allows you to create RFIs and you could do that same workflow with a dashboard. So it's a little bit easier for people to navigate versus because you would, I don't know, you could do a reverse one as well, like where this RFI is pertaining to. Um, Whatever the number is right here, I'd probably do a reverse link to it so that it goes to that PDF as well. If you were doing this process without a dashboard, right? Because well, where is it made instead of having it on the having people search through your CD sets would be kind of painful. I would probably look at my RFIs and want to know where that RFI is on the PDF set. So you can always do an opposite. Basically, what you would just do is check out. Oop, nope, check out.
Yeah, it's the only way to do your forms otherwise.
Um, I'd probably have to do it off this thing right here. I would have to create a button
Mm.
to do an action. That's unfortunate, but yeah, you can go through into here. You can create what's called a button. And then you can label it whatever. It doesn't need to look like this, but essentially that button is an action to somewhere. So then you can make it go to that page. So there are options.
Oh, beveled. Look, wait, go up. There's different looks you
Yeah,
can have to that.
you can have like different
Oh,
underline, solid.
oh, I like the beveled. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. And then you can say like options for it, label only, right? Label button. But you just add your action down here and then it opens to that PDF. You could do like a page on there as well, right? So that's completely the wrong one.
but you can still have it. And you look, there's even checkout on open. That's kind
Yeah,
of neat.
if you wanted people to modify it. Then you flatten the button in order for it to go. But there we are.
So now they're tied back to one another.
Yeah. So you can go here. Then you're not worried about like, well, where was this on the PDF set? It's part of it.
Pretty magical.
Yeah. Just ease of use.
So one thing that's come up when it comes to coordination is, if I've got multiple submittals and I want to coordinate, is it best to just create a session and delete those files, or rename or re-upload? So I've got my first submittal, and then, okay, everybody, we're done with this when we go to second submittal. Or would the better workflow to have it all organized in a studio project and build a session from there?
In a submittal workflow, I would do a studio project because sessions are going to end and restart. That's a submittal process, not upload, keeping the same session for a new submittal. I guess it comes down to your workflow, but I would personally add a new folder to the hierarchy here. This is where my submittals would be, and I'm just going to upload a PDF. Which one? What do we want to add into here? We'll do this one. Cool.
Oh yeah, that one.
I asked and I just threw some in there. But basically, what you could do is from a project, you can initiate a session. So what you're able to do is add to a new session. I guess you could create this. You could keep the same session active, and you can just say this is your submittals, right? Like, and then you can just reinitiate new PDFs into that session. But basically, this is going to initiate into a session. So it checks out. It's created a session. Now in the session itself, right? Wait a second, because I clicked.
And Matt brings up a good point too. Like, I'll do the project because projects can support way more file types.
Yeah.
Right? A session's only going to work with a PDF. A project is going to work with just about everything except for a zip file and an exe file. So if you've got supporting spreadsheets or CAD files or images, you just throw them all in there, organized, of course.
Yeah. And basically, sorry. And basically from here, you have your session of file. Now, if this was referenced to a PDF, not other documents for your submittals, again, you have all of your files in this specific location. Now, in sessions, you can add more. So if I were to add another PDF set, let's see. Right there. You can then re-add this into the existing session, and now you have a couple submittals. But basically, you check it back in or update the copy from the session itself. So in the session, you can right-click and update project copy and then just delete it.
So what does that do with all the markups that are already on there?
It updates it into the project. You mean, what do you mean?
In a
Restate
session. So you're saying you add to an existing session. It's a brand new file. It's not overwriting the old file.
It is bilateral, but it's checked out. So you're not going to be modifying the project one either way. You're going to be modifying the session. And then when you're ready to update the project copy, you update the project copy, which checks it in. It takes a minute. So don't go directly into the project after to go and look and see if it updated. It did, but you can then delete this from this session. Would you like to save a local copy? No, you probably would, but I didn't because I like to, anyways, so you can come over to here, same thing. This one is the other one. You can come in here and mark up, update server copy. It's checking it in to update the server copy. You can delete it. It will update here but not right away. So don't freak out.
Question from Dan. From a consultant point of view, to track architectural floor plan changes as the project moves along, what is the best option if we had a choice, projects or sessions? Well, since
Can you
architects
restate
like
that
to
question?
since architects like to change floor plans all the time, would you be, revision 1, revision 2, save them in different folder locations, or how would you track architect revisions as a project progresses? Maybe have an outdated folder in a studio project,
Are we talking
remove it
about some?
entirely.
Yeah, we're talking about something that was updated in the set
Mm-hmm.
at what phase?
Doesn't matter. Architect
Okay.
moved a wall, right?
And a new PDF was issued for that floor plan. But then there's
Correct.
also relative sheets. That's what
Mm-hmm.
slip sheet was built for.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So you just do slip sheeting to your PDF set. So you still have the existing set, but you slip in all of the new PDFs. You could do an append or a non-append. So you can reference the old PDF before. Not sets, but slip sheeting, because sets doesn't work in projects. Now, sets isn't a bad idea for old PDFs and new PDFs, because you would just be able to see them right next to each other. So there are options. It just depends on, not one size fits all in this scenario, right? So it would be, I'd need to know your entire workflow, but you have options.
So, speaking of sets, maybe that's one we need to add to our list for April because we haven't talked about that recently. Since sets don't work in a project, Alex put in there, assuming, can you do a slip sheet if you check out a PDF in projects?
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to slip those PDFs into, the one to the next. I don't think that'd
Mm,
be like if I open this one and this one. Hmm.
so there we go. With slip sheet, add, not replace, can you compare the two sheet versions to identify what changed? Good question, Tom. Um,
It won't let me.
Denied.
Well, if I just say these two are matched, hit okay. But it's gonna save it. Where's it gonna save it? Does it overwrite?
Especially because you got one
Oh, it did
that's
it.
not checked
Yeah,
out.
it
Okay.
did. So it did work.
Just superseded automatically.
Yep. And this was with two files in a PDF session. I mean, in a PDF project. So Studio Projects does work with slip sheeting when they're checked out. Both files had to be checked out, of course, right?
Mm. So now, can you do a document compare on those two?
I don't like the compare tool, but yeah, I mean, if you want to compare this one to that one, you mean? Is that what they're
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
Let's see. So current open files, browse. Yeah, I'd probably do it from this one. What was it? Site plan. Okay.
Well, you don't want to compare floor plan to site plan.
Well, I mean, that's what, there is no original file because it oversaved it, right? You could do like revision history and look at the old one,
Mm-hmm.
save this out, right?
Because
To
there
look
is
at
no
the old one.
compare there. So
Yeah, because
plus
it did
one for
this.
ACC, you can compare different revisions.
Yeah.
You'd have to just make a copy of it.
Well, I mean, you can compare it by split screen.
That's true. Synchronized pages. Um, and then Tom once asked a follow-up question. Why do you not like the compare document tool? Do you like overlay better?
I don't like either of them.
Do tell.
Explain the why.
Mm-hmm.
Because viewports move, and it doesn't look at orientation of those viewports. So I prefer to do a snapshot, copy and paste specific areas that I need to compare of a document. Um, it doesn't auto align properly for viewport orientation and moving of the document. Now it will in the future, so I was told, in true AI fashion. Now, if you all didn't know, Bluebeam announced that it did release an AI feature. That AI feature was for overlay pages to automatically align, but it's only looking at caricatures on the page size, not apparently. It's also looking at the title blocks. So let's give it a bonus there and specific points to align the title block and the page size. But it's not actually looking at the data, which moves, right, from viewport to viewport or detail to detail, right, on a page. If we reoriented some and moved around some details, they're all going to be wrong when you do an overlay. So I personally don't like the feature. Same thing with compare. It will revision cloud anything that's off. So imagine if a detail moved up just barely, right, in the viewport or view for those folks in different solutions. You're gonna have an issue. So yeah, it's gonna highlight the whole thing in the compare feature.
There you go. So yeah, there's some tricks to overlay, and this depends on the granularity you need, whether or not viewports changed, whether or not other things moved. But the snapshot workflow is pretty slick. I know you've shown that off not too
Yeah, I
far
mean,
back.
yeah, I do. There's a YouTube video that has a lot of views from that one. But basically, see, this is the same thing I did last time, and then that's why I was like, well,
What happened to it? I didn't save or check it in.
yeah. Close. But yeah, basically what I prefer to do is just a highlight of an area that I wanted to address anyways. So basically what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll open up a revision. And this is why I deselected it in the first place, because now I have to go back and click through different folders to get access to something. But it's simple. G, hotkey for snapshot. Control V. I'm not going to do Control Shift V because the intention of this would be to not have it align, right? So you could do Control Shift V, which is copying the same place, but the intent was for it not to align. That's why I'm using this method versus the built-in solution. So I'm going to modify colors by colorize, and now we can go through and align, right? So you can scroll in, get this close enough. There we are. And now I can see the difference. This view moved and I needed to align this. Now you can do the same thing with the entire page. So I can come into here, copy as a snapshot, back over to here, Control Shift V in the same spot. And now what I would do is I would go through and do multiply, but also I would change colors and colorize the entire set. And then what I would do additionally from here is I would add this as a layer, Rev 1, so that I can turn it on and off.
Magic.
But now you have the whole file size, file PDF. This is if it was in the same spot. But even if it was in the same spot, you can still do the same thing. Let's say the viewport moved up. You can drag this whole thing up to match that new location because it's not the same spot. We all know this happens very frequently. Views do move on PDF sets.
That's one way to fix it.
Yep.
And that's a good question, a good answer to wrap up our episode for today. Thanks for the questions, everybody. Thanks for the interaction. As always, this is what we love to see here on MCR. We will see you all next Tuesday. Same time, 8:30 Central, and we will go from there. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.